Hi everybody. Well, we have a lovely day here. It's blue sky, it's dry, it is pretty cold, but it's because there's no wind, it's a perfect day to be outside. And before we get into sowing seeds and everything, this is a perfect day to be doing tidying up and preparation for the coming year. So here I'm in the herb garden today, and as you can see, there's all these dead stems of various plants. I usually leave them as long as possible because insects and other creatures will be using them for habitat during the cold winter. But now it's time to get tidied up and sorted out. So I'm cutting them all down, pulling them out, and I'm just musing on my herbs and what I'll be planting this year. And as usual for me, I'm thinking about the past and how our ancestors used plants for healing. So I thought you might be interested in what happened in ancient Ireland. And apart from the plants, because of the world view of the Celts, which was that everything was imbued with spirit, whether it was animate or inanimate, everything had a spirit. So the dogs have a spirit, the trees have spirits, the stones and the rocks, everything, water, you name it, anything you can see is imbued with spirit. And because of that belief, there was a supernatural tendency also that we could easily move into other realms and into other worlds. And all of this worldview had to be kept in balance to maintain health. So if somebody was mean or cruel or behaved badly, it would mean they were out of balance, and that would have a knock-on effect and create imbalance in the society. So it was important to maintain balance and in that way ensure that everything was healthy and everything was prospering and thriving. So the thing that held everything together, a magical element, which was the truth. And if everybody was supposed to maintain and uphold the truth, but if a king failed to do so, or a chieftain or the leader, things would just go wrong. People would become very sick, lots of people would die, the animals and the crops would fail, and basically life would be pretty much terrible. And I just thought, that's interesting, isn't it? Because we do know that our leaders lie a lot today, and, you know, the people who should be bringing us the truth often don't. So I thought, you know, that's why our society is probably so sick, because the truth isn't upheld any longer. So apart from the truth, there were other modalities of healing. There were other things that the healers would have used from the natural world. So they would have used water. Water was a sacred element, and even today people still go to the holy wells. So water was rejuvenating, refreshing, it would improve fertility, and it enabled life. And then apart from that, there was fire. So hence, as we move around the wheel of the year, we have all the fire festivals, and these would have been opportunities for the smoke to come and protect people. They would go through the smoke, they would jump over the bonfires, and they would run their cattle between fires, and that would hopefully kill off any ticks and pests that the cattle were carrying. And of course, herbs would be burned to create a sacred smoke. And then there was music or sound, because they believed that in treating a person holistically, you had to look at every level of the person. So on an emotional level, music can release emotions and cause the person to unburden themselves on an emotional level, and that would aid them to restore their health and their balance. So music and sound were really important. And then the Celts also used stones. So the stones could be used in divination. So you might toss a couple of stones and one would, and ask the divine whether the person would get well or not get well. And also people would carry little touchstones that would mean something to them, and which when they held them and touched them, the stone would imbue them with some healing energy. The other thing were symbols. Symbols were very important, particularly the spiral. The spiral and circles represented everything that you could see in nature. So the spiraling of the stars through the heavens, or the cycles of the sun and the moon, and the cycles of the seasons, and the cycle of life, death and rebirth. All of these things were very important. So people didn't worry too much about dying because they knew they would be reborn again. So the ancestor becomes the descendant, and there's this kind of revolving or circling aspect to life in general. And then we have our wonderful plant allies, the medicinal plants, who would also help a person to be nudged back into balance and therefore become well again. So they knew that the plants had medicinal qualities if the plant decided to offer them. So plants weren't just picked and harvested and used, they were approached with reverence, and they were praised for their beauty and for their medicinal qualities. And then the healer would tell the plant, so and so is sick, I would like to use a part of you to make them well again. And then they would leave a gift and they would use the plant to help the person. So it's a lovely way to be engaging with plants and with nature, with the trees, in a state of reciprocity and reverence, rather than treating these natural beings as commodities. And I've talked about this before, but I'm just talking about it now in this context of a holistic type of healing, using all these natural aids that the earth provides us with. And I just think it's a lovely way to engage, and bringing that magical element of truth into everything that you do. And so then, of course, they also believed that the word had power. The spoken word has power because it can manifest things. So when they had their plants ready to offer to the sick person, they would put healing energy into that medicine with the words, whatever words they choose. You could choose to use, like just please help so-and-so, or may your healing power be activated, whatever it is that you might use in your in setting an intention or an affirmation that the plant would be beneficial. So all of this makes perfect sense to me, and I think it's really beautiful. And but I just think in our modern age we've let the truth go, we've lost it, and people just don't seem to have the same sense of respect and veneration for the truth. And I think that is what is the most sorely needed aspect of our modern lives, is to bring back the truth and to revere it. And it might just make a difference to the overall health of the nations, because we know our hospitals are on their knees, whichever country you're talking about. In Ireland, the hospitals are on their knees. In England, they are. In America, they are. I'm sure it's the same in other Western countries. And disease is, or at least what people are sick with today, tends to be lifestyle choice that causes their illnesses. And this is because we know that when we're buying, for example, a ready-made meal, there's no truth in that any longer. It's a false food. It's not real. And so what we eat determines our health, along with what we digest mentally as well. So considering our health systems are very much on their knees at the moment, we should maybe personally take responsibility, eat well, sleep well, think well. The three wise monkeys are just a perfect symbol at the moment, and do what we can with truth. Eat true food, not plastic stuff that's been overly processed, and search out the truth. Don't just allow people to tell us what we should be thinking or doing or experiencing. Let's experience and search for the truth, and then we might all feel much better. So I've got to get back on with this, and I hope that's some food for thought. And spring is coming. Plant a few bulbs or go and hug a tree and just enjoy nature, because it's nature as well that creates our health. Look up the word biophilia. It's suddenly becoming more into the public domain, and it means a love of our friends out in nature. Okay, see you next week. Have a good one. I hope you enjoyed today's film. If you did, subscribe and hit the bell for notifications. And have a look at the website danusirishherbgarden.com for more information about us and about the herbal medicine courses I offer and the Wise Woman Way training. And if you go to the shop, you can find the books, the Weed Handbooks and other herbal goodies. And remember, we put a new film out every Sunday. So looking forward to seeing you next week.